Hello, and welcome to another exciting, just heart-pounding episode of 99geek.ca presents a book reading, where I am reading all the books that I've been writing for my Patreon site at patreon.com/99geek. Um, Basically, the story I've been reading is a suburban fantasy, and previously on Suburban Fantasy, Rachel and Smith was a shy, innocent teenage girl until she was turned into a monster against her will by an evil serial killing vampire named Eckhart Gaines. She managed to escape from this monster and return to her friends, who helped her reacclimate her with her previous lifestyle. But it was all for naught, because now her sire has found her once more and has begun terrorizing her at her school. Meanwhile, while that is going on, her mother has gotten a job with the mayor of the town, who seems to be up to no good, and there's been some weird buzzing going on that she keeps hearing, and she doesn't know where the buzzing is coming from. She's like, "Where's this buzzing coming from? I don't know, but it's getting louder." And her mother knows something though, because in the extravagant city hall designed by the mayor and made all kinds of crazy, um, they have a atrium that has bees in it, and the bees are going crazy, and so that's crazy. Anyway, let's go back to that. So, starting halfway through chapter 11, we are starting off with Rachel's mother, Hannah. "He's still not here," Hannah said, checking her watch. Rachel and Jacob would be just starting school. "This is why I didn't vote for him," Hannah told Melissa as the receptionist rolled around her desk. "This was exactly my fear. Because he's smarter than us, he doesn't think he can follow all the same rules." Hannah wasn't going to let this go. The mayor was her responsibility, and she wasn't about to fail on the first day of her new job. "I don't see what the big deal is," the secretary said. "We're going to get paid for doing nothing all week besides answering the phones." She logged into her computer screen and threw Hannah a grimace. "You know, I've been addicted to this one Facebook game. It's like The Sims. I could really use this week off to raise my Sim family." "That's a lot of tax money you're getting paid to play on your Facebook," Hannah said, frowning at Melissa with disappointment. Fruit punch break? Fruit punch break? Alright. "You are way too serious," Melissa told her. "You need to focus on what I'm asking you," Hannah said. "Is there any way we can figure out where the mayor is, like a GPS device or something?" "Would you leave it alone?" Melissa asked. "He's probably where he always is. I've taken more than 100 messages from his wife, and all she ever talks about is all the time he spends in his lab." That was a start. "So where is his lab?" Hannah asked Quite quickly. Melissa shrugged. "I couldn't tell you." Hannah opened her mouth to say more, but Melissa interrupted her. "And we don't spy on the mayor. No GPS, shortwave radios, or—" The receptionist stopped. "A cell phone?" Hannah finished the woman's sentence, slamming her fist on the table. Uh. Melissa leaned back in her chair, surprised at Hannah's outburst. "All right," she said, putting on her earpiece and dialing the mayor's number. "His phone is off," she said, pulling the earpiece from her ear and tossing it onto her desk. "That means we can't track the phone, and he's essentially off the grid. Any other bright ideas, or can my sim feed her two babies now?" Hannah wasn't going to give up. "Being the mayor's assistant means I have clearance to read many of the mayor's files, right?" she asked Melissa. "Yeah," Melissa said. "But remember what his last assistant got fired for?" Hannah knew, but she didn't respond. Melissa answered her own question. "Putting her nose in places it didn't belong. You've got to keep your snout down if you don't want to be fired." Melissa was right, of course. Hannah knew that. But she had an obligation to do what she thought was right. "Would you still have the address of his previous assistant on file?" Scene change. Scene change. Scene change. Rachel had to endure an entire class with Eckhart before she had a chance to safely chat with everyone. It wasn't until the end of class that she signaled the boys and led them all to the girls' bathroom across the hall. It was 5 minutes before class ended and the bathroom was still empty. Rachel went to each sink in turn and twisted the taps, so they all splashed loudly. Ksh, ksh, ksh. She hit the buttons on the hand dryers and they roared to life. Keep hitting those, she told Mike, pointing to the dryers. Aha! I really shouldn't be here, Bilal told the group. He seemed scared to look around, and was keeping his sights on the door as if a girl could walk in at any moment and attack him. I know this is going to sound funny coming from me, Andrew told Rachel, stepping forward, but you've been acting weird all class. Everyone was watching her now, very interested in what she had to say. He's the guy, Rachel told them. What guy? Ian asked, grabbing her hand. Rachel couldn't believe that they didn't already catch on. He's the guy who turned me. Ian dropped her hand as a hush fell over the group. Mike forgot to hit the dryer button, and it turned off. "Ha! You mean the vampire that turned you?" Bilal said. "Into a vampire?" Rachel stomped across the bathroom and slammed the dryers on angrily. What more did she have to say to get her friends to understand how serious things were? "I knew I hated that guy," Jason growled before turning pale. "You don't think Carnelli is dead, do you?" "And Mr. Gaines can't hear us with all this?" Ian asked, his face also a pale white. Rachel was glad to see at least one of them was joining her in being scared senseless. "This isn't all. There's also been some really annoying buzzing all day," Rachel admitted to them. "It's near impossible for either of us to hear anything without really concentrating." "Convenient," Andrew pointed out. "I hear nothing." The bell rang. Well, except for that, Andrew told her. No, 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 Mike. That was a very, I don't know what voice I was trying to do there, but no, 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 Mike said, almost forgetting to hit the dryer again. As it roared to life, he continued, "I called the guy a twat. I don't even think I know what a twat is." I can't believe he didn't kill you, Rachel told him with a slight grin. "I don't want to be late for economics," Ian complained. "We should figure this all out at lunch." "No," Rachel said harshly. "We need to run as far from here as possible. There's nothing else to figure out." Everyone seemed to think she was overreacting. "You don't understand," she told them. "There's no confronting him. He'll kill all of you and then make me drink your blood." "Ha ha! I knew this was going to turn bad," Bilal said, rocking back and forth on his heels. I told you if we ally with vampires, we're only going to get ourselves killed." "Look," Andrew said, "Ian's right. The safest place right now is our classes. We've got Jim behind us. He doesn't teach any other class to our grade." "Seriously, Rachel," Ian said as Rachel splashed her face with water from one of the sinks. "Please don't do anything crazy until we come up with a plan at lunch." Ian waited for a reply, even as the second bell rang. "Yeah," Rachel said at last. "I will, I promise." She was lying, but he didn't need to know that. They split up, with Ian and Jason going to economics and everyone else going to drama. Everyone but Rachel, who stayed in the bathroom as another girl came in and lost herself in a stall. Rachel wasn't ready to go to drama class, not when Eckhart was going to teach another class with a whole new selection of teen girls for him to influence. What if he met someone he liked more than Rachel? What if he ruined their life too? She couldn't let that happen, but that meant spying on him. Maybe she'd be able to convince some of the others to even pitch in. Surveillance was a good first step to fighting him. What was that saying from G.I. Joe? Knowing is half the battle. She was alone in the bathroom now, and Rachel was pretty certain. Kleenex break. Itchy nose. Alright, and Rachel was pretty certain classes had begun without her, but there was still someone in the hall, waiting outside the bathroom for Rachel, and Rachel knew the smell, knew it anywhere, hated it. There was no avoiding it, though. Sooner or later, Rachel would have to open that door and face Daisha. There was no way around it. Maybe she could have grabbed the door and then slipped away so fast no one would see her. But that was a vampire Rachel talking. At school, she had to be human Rachel. If she stopped playing human Rachel and was vampire Rachel for even a second, it could ruin everything. She could be seen, or it could all be caught by security cameras. Rachel wasn't sure erasing the cameras would be as easy a second time. The teen vampire finally opened the door, ready to come out of hiding. I know you've got all kinds of things you want to say to me, Rachel told the bully, but can you even remember why you hate me? What the hell did I ever do to you to deserve so much abuse? Daisha didn't say anything, so Rachel took her momentary hesitation as a sign to continue. If you can remember what it is, if I really did something so bad to you, then go ahead and say whatever it was you were going to say. Daisha punched Rachel in the jaw so hard that, were she human, her jaw probably would have dislocated. Rachel played along, however, throwing herself into a locker and then to the ground with a little more enthusiasm than she intended. What the hell? Rachel exclaimed angrily after groaning and lifting herself. Ugh! What the hell? Rachel exclaimed angrily after groaning and lifting herself up slowly with her arms. She needn't have tried to get up, as Daisha was on top of her in a flash and turned her on her back before pushing her head heavily against the ground. You didn't do anything to me? Daisha repeated Rachel's words questioningly. How do you think I knew about you and Tanya? Gaydar? Rachel suggested, prompting Daisha to smack her head once more against the hard floor. Ow! She tried to struggle against Daisha's weight. God damn it, Daisha, get the hell off me! All of last year, I watched Tanya from a distance. Watched her go from no one to the most popular girl in school all in 1 year. And I always knew she was destined to be amazing. Oh my god, Rachel said slowly, starting to understand what Daisha was talking about. She lay back against the hard floor, breathing heavily. Daisha continued as if Rachel hadn't said anything. We met at the mock UN camp she went to. She recognized me from class, and I was the only person she knew there. We, started to spend time together, and when we were back home, we kept spending time together. You're a lesbian, Rachel managed to say past Daisha's arm against her neck. I think we can both agree. You don't have to be a lesbian to want to sleep with our school president, Daisha admitted to Rachel, taking some pressure off of Rachel's throat. She wasn't sure that was any kind of true at all, but she didn't say anything. The hallway was empty, luckily, and no one had seen Daisha's outburst, except for one other person, if you could call him a person. Are you two girls fighting? Eckhart spoke with his slippery tongue. Daisha startled, as neither girl had noticed he was there until he spoke. She helped Rachel to her feet, and both girls stood at attention. We weren't fighting, Daisha said. She fell, Rachel said, her mind not quite running at full speed, on me. More like you fell, Daisha argued. I was trying to help her up. The bitch lied convincingly to Eckhart. Eckhart simply smiled. I don't think you understand, he said to Daisha quietly. I want you to fight, Rachel. Rachel's jaw dropped, but then she remembered who they were dealing with. In fact, Eckhart said, looking deep into Daisha's eyes, I want you to kill Rachel, right here and now. Kill her, and don't stop trying until she is dead. No! Rachel said, trying to pull Daisha away from him. It was no use. The bully was enthralled. Oh, Eckhart continued, and if you do succeed, however unlikely that might be, forget all about ever meeting me. Just to be safe. You asshole! Rachel said to him, but she couldn't say any more as Daisha grabbed her face and crushed it hard as she could against the locker. The door to the locker crumbled in on itself with the impact, and Daisha pulled Rachel free. You're a lot more formidable than you look, Daisha told Rachel angrily. Rachel's head was still in Daisha's hands as she said, Yeah, I was gonna say the same about you. Only difference is, Daisha said to Rachel coldly, I work out for 3 hours at a gym every day. She slammed Rachel's face into the hard floor. How do you start your morning? Playing video games? Reading comic books? Rachel tried to crawl away, but Daisha just kept coming. "No," Rachel muttered. "Daisha, don't!" Daisha grabbed Rachel by the legs and swung her entire body from the floor into a pack of lockers, denting the entire row. Dropped to the ground again, Rachel tried to crawl away again as Mr. Martin came out of a nearby classroom. "Break it up, you two!" he demanded. He yelled to them as Daisha struck Rachel's face hard with her fist. "Damn it, girl," he said, trying to pull Daisha off Rachel. "Don't you think she's had enough?" Daisha clasped her hands together and clubbed Mr. Martin across the back of the head. He was unconscious before his head hit the ground. Rachel couldn't believe how far Daisha had lost it. Eckhart had completely taken away her free will. It was as if the bully was being mind-controlled to kill her nemesis any way she could. No one was allowed to get in her way. Rachel was tired of being defenseless and getting her ass kicked. Rachel was tired of being defenseless and getting her ass kicked, Rachel. Like how it was Vampire Rachel and Human Rachel. This is getting her ass kicked Rachel. It's supposed to be a triple joke thing. Whatever, forget it. Anyway, it was about time she leveled up to running the heck away, Rachel. Now that's a fourth time the joke. Forget it. Getting to her feet, she tried to put as much distance down the hall between herself and Daisha as she could. She didn't even realize she'd been running on a long floor mat until Daisha grabbed the other end and pulled. Rachel pitched forward, smacking her head off the ground. It was enough to daze even her, and before she could get back to her feet, Daisha was standing over her with an entire desk held over her head. "Please," Rachel pleaded to Daisha, sobbing a little and spitting blood into a puddle pooling beneath her. The bully wasn't interested in listening. "I'm gonna kill you so effing dead," she told Rachel with glee. Daisha dropped the desk down on Rachel's head, and the teen vampire could feel her skull crack from the impact. With a painful throb, she could feel her healing factor working overtime. Seeing that Rachel was still alive, Daisha grabbed a locker door and pulled it straight off its hinges. Rachel used the extra time to get shakily to her feet. She had to get Daisha away from people. The bully was already facing suspension for punching a teacher. If Rachel didn't get her summer private, Daisha was going to destroy her entire life without even knowing it, without having any control. And it would all be Eckhart's fault, along with everything else that was bad in the world. You gotta stop this," Rachel said, begging Daisha to get a hold of herself. The bully did no such thing, but she did have quite a strong hold on the locker door that she swung like a baseball bat, knocking Rachel all the way down the hall and into the front foyer. Rachel got up and tried to run up the front stairs to the second floor. She ran fast, for a human anyway, and it was really her fault when Daisha caught her on the top step. She could have ran faster. "Why won't you die?" Daisha yelled at her, flinging her off the top of the stairs and all the way down to the concrete below. It was a long fall, and Rachel bounced on the landing, cracking a few ribs and tumbling into the wall by the staff room. "Oh, Rachel?" her English teacher, Mrs. Phelps, said, stepping out from the staff room. "Are you all right?" she asked. Rachel couldn't respond. She was still clutching herself in pain. She was pretty sure one of those cracked ribs had punctured a lung. She could kind of feel it healing in an ethereal sort of way, and needed another moment before she would even want to try talking. "That girl just threw her across the hall," a grade 9 said, having seen everything as he was coming out of the cafeteria. He pointed to the top of the stairs, but Daisha was already gone, thankfully. "I just tripped," Rachel said, putting on a brave face despite the pain before raising her head and smiling to Mrs. Phelps. I'm fine," she said. "Really?" The grade 9 couldn't believe it. "She was thrown from all the way up there," the boy said excitedly. Rachel forced herself painfully to her feet. She hadn't realized right away, but she'd broken something in her leg, too. It fixed itself as she stood up, but the pain was excruciating. "Don't do drugs," she said to the kid, who was shocked that she could even get to her feet. She patted him on the back before taking off up the stairs. "Sorry, Mrs. Phelps. I'm late for class." Where had Daisha gone? Rachel had to try to think like her, but worse, had to think like a brainwashed her. The bitch must have realized by now that she didn't have much hope in killing Rachel in any conventional way. So what was the most logical, unconventional way to kill someone? Things were really bad, and she knew there was only one thing she could do: ask for help. Her phone was in her hand as she reached the top step, and she quickly sent Ian a most desperate text. Rachel and Smith. Code Black. Scene change, scene change, scene change. Another text from Rachel. Rachel and Smith. Eckhart has mind-controlled Daisha into a crazy homicidal maniac, and she's loose somewhere in the school. Ian, his economics teacher called to him from her desk at the front of the room. From her desk. Ian, his economics teacher called to him from her desk at the front of the room. This is a pop quiz. You are going to have to put your phone down. Or away. Things were bad, and seemed to be going from that to worse. Rachel needed him, and he was stuck here doing a meaningless pop quiz. Actually, I have to go, Ian said, putting his pencils back in the appropriate pocket. My friend needs me, he told his teacher. You'll get a 0 for this quiz, she told him in surprise, making him wince. He never had a 0 on anything in his life. So be it, he said, not sounding nearly as confident as he'd meant to. He strode down the lane of desks and closed the door behind him. As soon as he felt no one was watching, he started to run. Sure, he was breaking his lifestyle choice for what he supposed was the second time in one day, but this was important. And of course, like any goody two-shoes finally breaking the rules, Ian got caught. Mr. O'Byrne must have seen him run past the science office, and the teacher peered into the hall. No running. Ian turned and shrugged. Rachel needs help, he yelled to his science teacher. Is it bad? O'Byrne asked, stepping out from his office. Can I help? No, Ian said. He still didn't particularly trust Mr. O'Byrne, but he did suppose he owed the teacher enough to let him in on some of the day's events. You know the new substitute teacher? He asked. O'Byrne nodded. The one replacing Mr. Carnally? He's a vampire, Ian told the teacher. O'Byrne made a face. Are you sure? Ian supposed it was rather a dramatic thing for someone to just believe on faith. Still, Ian said, yeah, he was pretty sure. Mr. Gaines was a beast that turned Rachel. Ian turned his back to the teacher and was about to start running again when Rachel came from around the corner. She's close, Rachel said. Of course she could smell Daisha with her vampire sense. What exactly did Eckhart say to her? Ian asked Rachel. I don't know, Rachel said, looking around in confusion. You smell that? Try and think, Ian urged her, because I don't know what your plan is besides maybe kill her. We can't kill her, Rachel told Ian. Then I would love to know your plan, Ian said. We could kill Eckhart, she suggested. And that breaks the spell, maybe? Ian told her. But how do we do that? I've been training, Rachel said, interrupting Ian. What does that even mean? Ian yelled at her, freaking out a little. How do we even know you can get him before she does something really bad? Stop freaking out, she begged him. You're making me freak out. She hugged herself tightly, and her eyes widened in the exact sort of way that always melted Ian's heart without fail. I'm sorry, Ian apologized. Would you rather I was Mike? He never freaks out. Rachel gave Ian a look from the corner of her eye. Trust me, she told him. He freaks out like the rest of us. Ian tried to take a deep breath, but it was shaky more than anything. If we're going to pull a Batman by both defeating and saving Daisha at the same time, I think we need to find a loophole or something. He was pretty clear about it, Ian, Rachel told him. Just kill me and then forget it all happened. All right, Ian said, his mind racing. I think I have an idea, but we need to find her. Well, I would, Rachel said, but I can't smell her through all that gas. Ian's head turned to the seance lab. Looking through the glass in the door and spotting Daisha. Oh, Rachel, this is bad. Rachel opened the door to the classroom and the two stepped slowly inside, and then I took a fruit punch break. Do-do-do-do-do. Fruit punch break. Do-do-do-do-do. Fruit punch break. Ah, delicious. Rachel opened the door to the classroom, and the two stepped slowly inside. Daisha! Rachel started to say. The room smelled so heavily of gas that now Ian could smell it too. All the valves were wide open. Rachel, Dacia said, standing amongst the valves with her arms outstretched. It's good you came. I'd really like to see you survive this. There was a lighter in Dacia's hand, and to Ian's horror her thumb pressed against the ignition and began to turn it. Rachel disappeared quite suddenly from beside Ian and appeared again at Dacia's side. She easily slapped the lighter free from the brainwashed girl's hand and then lifted Dacia by her neck. "Oh, shit!" Ian exclaimed. Dacia's surprise was absolute as she was rendered speechless and seemed, at least for a moment, to have forgotten all about trying to kill Rachel. "Take her to the roof," Ian said, his plan rapidly forming. Rachel disappeared with Dacia, but Ian stayed behind to shut all the valves off first. Once he was convinced the school wasn't going to blow up, and once the doors were all prepped open to vent the lab, he threw Andrew a text. And this too needs to be worded. His text said, Ian Fletcher. Code black. Eckhart brainwashed Dacia. The text wasn't gone for a second when suddenly Ian's phone rang. Scene change, scene change, scene change. We're really kind of busy, Andrew told Ian, speaking for himself and Bilal. Alice was under Eckhart's influence as well, and it was driving her mad. From what Andrew could tell, Eckhart had told her to be silent. She took it quite literally, and when it came time for a monologue in drama class, she froze. Her mouth opened, and it really seemed like she wanted to talk, but no sound could come out. As silent tears ruined her mascara, Alice had tried to run off the stage, but her shoes were making so much noise that she kicked them off. One hit a bell just off stage, and Alice dove atop it in an attempt to quiet it. Eckhart told Dacia to kill her. Eckhart told Dacia to kill her, and they've been kicking each other's ass all across the school, Ian yelled into the phone from the other end. That sounds bad, Andrew admitted to Ian. And a little awesome. Aha! Tell Ian to get his butt over here, Bilal yelled to Andrew from beside Alice, where he was trying to comfort her. We need our leading expert on vampires here now. I don't want to deal with this shit anymore. Andrew stomped his foot. You mean our second leading expert on vampires? He told Bilal sternly. Watching Vampire Diaries does not make you the leading expert, Bilal yelled angrily at Andrew. Bilal wasn't even watching Alice now, who seemed to be having an impossible struggle between crying loudly in desperation and suffocating herself to keep from making any sound at all. Look, Andrew said into his iPhone. Alice is going old Dobby on us. Can I call you back? He was, of course, referencing the house elf from the Harry Potter books with self-destructive tendencies. Alice, honey, the drama teacher called, slowly approaching the disturbed girl. Is this part of your monologue? 'Cause you know it's got to be done on stage or I have to give you an F. Yes, it is part of her monologue, Andrew told the teacher, hanging up his phone before Ian could say anything more. He had to delay the teacher for as long as possible, like maybe till the bell. He checked his iPhone for the time. Only another hour. Andrew stuck a glance Alice's way. Hey, Bilal, he yelled to his friend. Maybe you should keep her away from that knife. Scene change, scene change, scene change. Rachel had always wondered what lay beyond the locked door across on the side slab. She was more than happy to finally break straight through and take the steep metal staircase up to the roof. She tossed Dacia to the ground in front of her and roared. Roar! No, that was terrible. That was so terrible, but whatever. I'm never going to do a good one of that. She could feel the bloodlust taking over. Healing must have been more draining on her than she had thought, because she was starving, and killing Dacia was really starting to sound more and more like a good idea. But then something overruled her bloodlust. Something hurt her more than her hunger. She'd foolishly left her umbrella in the changing room. She'd been so distracted with all the horrible things going on that her umbrella hadn't even crossed her mind. It was a crucial mistake she was made to pay for in spades, the sun roasting Rachel alive. She could feel her skin burning away. It weakened her and took away her ability to slip. She couldn't even move her legs as she fell to her knees and Dacia got to her feet. No way, Dacia said with a laugh. You're a vampire? Rachel pulled her hood desperately over her head, and it was instantly soothing. She had her hands in her sleeves and could feel her strength starting to come back. It wasn't fast enough. Daisha grabbed Rachel's shoulder and began dragging her to the edge of the roof. She was going to take full advantage of Rachel's weakness. "You already survived a one-story fall," she muttered to Rachel. "You think you can survive two?" Rachel couldn't fight her, and Daisha had no problem throwing Rachel off the side of the roof. As the vampire plummeted to the concrete behind the school, all she could think before everything went black was how much she wished someone would stop that damn buzzing. Bzzz. Timothy, oh, I forgot. Scene change. Scene change. Scene change. Scene change. Scene change. Scene change. What? Scene change. Timothy O'Byrne had recently ordered a large telescope for his classes, and he was excited for the class to finally explore the universe with their own equipment instead of spending the entire astronomy unit reading from a textbook. But that wasn't the use he had planned for the equipment today. See, the telescope was actually quite heavy. He'd gotten it to the front hall, but there was no way he could possibly lift it up the entire staircase. Lucky for Timothy, the new substitute, Mr. Gaines, had to pass through the front hall to get to his lunch bag in the staff room. "Could you help me lift this?" Timothy asked. Eckhart eyed the very large crate with an amused glance and shook his head. "Looks far too heavy for me to lift," he admitted to Timothy with a shrug. "We'll do it together," Timothy insisted. "Come on, there's 4 handles." The science teacher gestured for the handles, but he wanted The science teacher gestured for the handles he wanted Eckhart to grab, and reluctantly the man did. Or was he a man? Timothy had attached cuffs to the handles before Eckhart had got there, and he grabbed them then, slapping the other end over Eckhart's wrist. Eckhart chuckled. "You're going to regret that." "Not as you're going to regret coming back to the school," Timothy said, reaching his hand into his pocket and hitting the open button on the remote that controlled the shutters over the windows in the front hall. They rose quickly, bathing Eckhart in sunlight. Eckhart hissed, but hunched over so as to avoid the attention of an oblivious teen passing by with headphones on. He tried pulling himself free of the handcuffs, but, as O'Byrne had hoped, he was already proving to be too weak. "I will free you," Timothy whispered. "I will free you," Timothy whispered in Eckhart's ear, "if you promise to leave this school now and never return." Eckhart tried to chuckle again, but it came out as more of a growl. "What if I promise all that?" he told O'Byrne, "and then when you free me, I just kill you anyway." "Only you don't do that in such a public place with all these video cameras." Timothy pointed to one above them and another across the hall. "Because you know the Vampire Council would be on you in a second." Timothy raised a finger as Eckhart started to talk. "And I don't necessarily want you going up in flames 'cause, questions. So make it easy on both of us." Timothy continued, "My mind is already coming up with a scientific explanation for spontaneous combustion, so you better act now or it's over." "Fine," Eckhart said, his hair starting to burn away. He looked at Timothy with eyes that screamed hate, and Timothy knew with that look that he'd won. With another button pressed, the shutters lowered, and Eckhart could finally relax. Timothy started reaching around in his pocket for his key to the cuffs, but before he could get Eckhart free, the vampire and the entire telescope disappeared from sight. Timothy cursed. That had been an expensive telescope, and now his kids would have to just read from the textbook like last year. Or maybe his Christmas bonus could pay for another one. But most importantly, what was making that buzzing sound? Scene change. Scene change. Scene change. Ian got to the roof just in time to see Rachel get thrown off. "No!" he cried after her dramatically, joining Dacia's side. "Oh my God!" Ian said to Dacia, grabbing her shirt as they both stared down at her lifeless body. "You killed her, you bitch!" Dacia's victorious smile seemed to almost instantaneously change to one of oblivion, then anger. "Get your hands off me," she said, shaking Ian free. She looked at her watch and frowned. "Crap, I'm late for drama?" She ran off down the stairs as if nothing had happened, to Ian's semi-surprise. "Was that your plan?" Rachel asked Ian from her place suddenly beside him. He hugged her You know, I'm going to start that whole paragraph again. Was that your plan? Rachel asked Ian from her place suddenly beside him. He hugged her, happy that she was okay, but she pushed him off awkwardly. Ian wasn't sure, but he thought he saw fangs. You all right? He asked her, trying to ignore a buzzing in his ear. She had blood pretty much all over her face and shirt from the beating she'd received at Dacia's hands, as well as the fall. I'm fine, Rachel said, shaking her head. Or not fine. I'm hungry as hell and frustrated with everything going wrong all the time, and I can't even dwell on all the bad shit in my life because this damn noise just keeps getting louder. Wait, Ian said, raising his hand. You were hearing a buzzing, right? Rachel nodded. It's almost deafening now, though. I hear it too, Ian admitted. It isn't deafening, but it is annoying. Yeah, Rachel said, that's the one. What is that? Ian asked, searching the horizon. It was coming from somewhere out there. Hey, he said, pointing to a black blob he spotted coming in from over the highway. It was getting larger, almost blotting out the sun. What is that? Rachel couldn't look because of the sun, but she didn't have to. Ian pulled out his camera in his pocket and zoomed in as close as he could. It was still just a strange, dark blob, almost completely engulfing the sun now. He took a picture and pulled it up on the display. He zoomed in even closer and could make out that it was made out of little bugs. That should be made up of little bugs. Making corrections. He zoomed in even closer and could make out that it was made up of little bugs. He showed the camera to Rachel and asked, You think those are locusts or something? Was it some sort of Egyptian plague? Rachel looked at the picture on the camera, even as Oakville darkened around them. She finally looked towards the coming swarm. Ian was squinting hard as he could, but still couldn't really make out what they were, even as the swarm engulfed houses and approached ever closer. Ian could also hear the screams now of people on the street, and the buzzing was becoming thunderous. We have to go inside, Rachel said, grabbing Ian's hand and leading him to the stairs down. He stopped in his tracks as he tried to close the door behind him. You broke the door, he told her. It won't close. The entire door frame had been ripped from the wall, and the door just flopped around uselessly by its hinges. Rachel disappeared and reappeared with a large piece of plywood from the shop and a hammer with nails. You're going to have to seal this doorway behind me, she told him quickly. What? Ian asked with surprise. You can't seriously be thinking about going out there. Rachel hugged Ian. I can hear a woman out there crying that she lost her baby in the swarm, his best friend told him. I have to try and help. Ian didn't need to ask why. She had to help because she could, and if she didn't, it would be selfish, like Spider-Man using his powers for wrestling or stealing candy from babies. Do it, Rachel yelled to her over the thunderous buzzing that was not. Oh, do it! Just do it! Yesterday you said today, today you said tomorrow. Just do it! Anyway, Ian yelled to her over the thunderous buzzing that was now engulfing them. He took the hammer from her and the wood. Go quick! I got this covered! Rachel moved to leave, but stopped and gave Ian one more concerned look. He tried to smile reassuringly. I won't do anything you wouldn't do, he told her. She didn't seem much relieved by his promise, but still disappeared into the swarm as the bees overran the school. Scene change. Scene change. Scene change. The mayor's previous assistant lived in Burlington, a city just past Oakville on the way out from Toronto. It was this woman's rundown apartment complex that Hannah Lynn pulled up to that afternoon. Getting out of her car, she stepped into the lobby and hit the buzzer for room 306. Who is it? Or, who is it? No. Who is it? No. Who is it? A deep woman's voice asked through the speaker. Hannah Lynn, she told the woman on the other end. I work for the mayor. Will you let me in? Hell no. Hell no. Hell no, said the woman. It seemed Hannah was right. It seemed Hannah was at the right place. Stay exactly where you are, the woman said, after which there was a noticeable silence. Hello? called Hannah, but there was no reply. "I want to talk to you about the problems you had with the mayor." She had to gain the woman's trust, something she knew wouldn't be easy. "I know it's hard to trust people. I'm sure you feel betrayed. I would too. But would you believe I've lost my share of jobs as well? More than I can count. I was just fired, in fact. Partner to a major firm, and they merged behind my back." A black woman in a beige trench coat came down the flight of stairs behind the locked door and pointed at Hannah in surprise. "Have you been talking this whole time?" she asked through the glass. "'Cause I only heard what you're saying if I'm holding the button. 'Cause I only hear what you're saying if I'm holding the button." She hadn't heard Hannah's whole speech. That was too bad. Hannah didn't think she could make it twice. Are you?" She looked at the paper Melissa had given her. "Kieran Knowles?" Kieran nodded. "I've got a gun," she said. "Unless you have backup, I really suggest you leave now." She had vibrant red hair tied in two pigtails against that stretched halfway down her back. Okay, I messed up. She had vibrant red hair tied in two pigtails that stretched halfway down her back. Maybe I didn't screw that up, I don't know. And wore sunglasses that made her face very hard to read. "The mayor has stopped showing up to work," Hannah yelled through the glass. "I need to know what it was you found that got you fired." "You mean the bastard did it again?" Kieran said, shaking her head. "Where the hell did he finally find the fuel?" Hannah could see the woman was visibly shaking in fear. "Are you all right?" Hannah asked the woman. "You have to tell me, Kieran. What did he do?" She placed her hand on the glass. "You have to tell me what he did, Kieran." You did say your name was Hannah." Hannah nodded, and Kieran leaned heavily against the door. Their faces were so close that they could have kissed were the glass not between them. "Do you believe, Hannah, in time travel?" And that's the end of chapter 11. Chapter 12 is entitled, "All right, here's what we're going to do." But we're not going to find out what we're going to do just yet. So you're going to have to tune in later if you want to find out what we're going to do. But yes, so that was pretty crazy. O'Byrne successfully got rid of Eckhart Gaines, at least from the school, but I'm sure we will see him again. Or who knows, maybe he'll use that telescope to sneak back into the school and stare at the stars at night. That would be scary, right? Then also there was, of course, Hannah and that mayor's assistant. What did the mayor's assistant mean by time travel? That's certainly going to be interesting. And there's Rachel going out into all those bees. What was with that swarm of bees? Like, what's going on? Everything's happening all at once. It's crazy. It's crazy, man. Anyway, so that's 99geek.ca. I hope you enjoyed this book reading. And you can check out all my other stuff at 99geek.ca. I have a whole ton of writing. Like this is just one book, and it's been 441 pages so far. But I have way more books than that. I have thousands of books, thousands of pages. I have almost 2,000 pages worth of content right now on my site, and there's more coming. And this book is almost over, and this is just book one, and there's a whole other book that is waiting for you. And there's Adrift Homeless, about people on a dying planet who have to try and find a new home by building a ship to the stars. And then there's the Aldon Chronicles, about a fallen angel who teams up with Frankie, a thief who was disgraced from her guild, and she's trying to get revenge on her guild, and she needs this fallen angel's help. And there's also Dakota Slade, which is a spin-off of this book, about a lovelorn woman who becomes a paranormal investigator, teaming up with a detective to try and solve a spontaneous combustion. Finally, there is the fifth book in season 1 of 99 Geek. Remember, this is season 0 of 99 Geek. Season 1 of Urban Fantasy, but season 0 of 99% Geek. Season 1, the fifth book, is entitled Isabel Tsung, Vice News, and no, Voice News, sorry, Voice News. Vice News is something completely different. But Voice News, Isabel Tsung, Voice News, and that is about a journalist who is trying to find a big story in the Middle East. Not trying to find a big story, she's stumbled upon a big story. The point is, check it out. It's good stuff. You can subscribe for just $1, but there's free content on my blog. I've got video game streams. I've got all kinds of goodies. But if you've been enjoying the story, I really hope you subscribe to my Patreon because I could use all the help I could get. It's only $1, just $1 a month, cheaper than the price of coffee. Like the price of it would cost like 2 coffees just to subscribe to my thing for a month. And then you get access to everything, not just the latest chapter, but every chapter I've ever released of any book. It's a deal. It's a steal. Don't like it? You can unsubscribe after the first month. That's cool. But yeah, I hope you'll like it. Till later. Peace out. Let me hit this end streamy button thingy. Where is my mouse? Oh, it's on the other screen. And